For those who are unfamiliar with our fabulous Connecticut Secretary of State, Denise Merrill is a tireless champion of voting rights. Connecticut is actually not only has very restrictive voting rights, as I mentioned earlier, but we're also a pretty segregated state. And so getting voters of color to turn out, for example, Hartford had a 5% voter turnout in the previous election just now, which was just appalling. So Denise Merrill has been incredible working for voter participation and open government, advocating for legislation to improve our electoral systems. And I'm not going to keep talking because I'm going to let you talk. I am so delighted to see you here. I'm always delighted to see you. So thank you, Denise, for joining us.
Oh, it's my very great pleasure to be in this amazing group. I'm listening to these stories people are telling from the trenches, and man, this is fabulous. I mean, you got a real movement going here. Well, I am here at the request of Carol, who has almost single-handedly helped me in this venture that we went forth on this year to try to get some progress on voting rights in Connecticut. Now, Connecticut's known as a pretty progressive place, but we do have some systemic problems, shall we say, in that a lot of the rules are not just in statute, but rules about things like who gets an absentee ballot are in our state constitution, which means that if you want to get anything changed, you have to get on the ballot. And to get on the ballot, you need a bipartisan vote of the legislature. Well, you all know how hard that is these days. But nonetheless, this year's legislative session was one of the most consequential sessions for voting rights in recent Connecticut history. In the midst, so I'm telling you this story to give you hope, because what we did this year does fly in the face of what you're hearing about in other parts of the country. But almost every important aspect of election administration this year, registering to vote, how and when to cast a ballot, who's eligible to vote, Connecticut made strides this year to make it easier for all those things, for every Connecticut citizen, things we've been fighting for at least a decade. This year alone, Connecticut legislature passed and the governor signed laws that codified and expanded automatic voter registration. It extended the right to vote to people on parole and probation, making the very popular and successful absentee ballot drop boxes permanent in Connecticut's elections. We eliminated prison gerrymandering. We extended the COVID voting changes over an entire year, including allowing every voter to vote by absentee ballot, which is extremely unusual in Connecticut. Usually only about 4% of people vote by absentee ballot. We had like 35 to 45% of people voting by absentee ballot. We did the most important thing from my perspective was we did get a measure on the ballot in 2022 that will allow Connecticut to join the 46 other states that have other days besides Tuesday as voting. Now, I don't have to tell this group how important that is, because there are many people that are not able to vote on Tuesday for all kinds of different reasons. And so it's probably taken us about 5 years to get to this point because we had to pass it through 2 legislatures and we had to have the vote of some Republicans. So I'd love to say that this was all my doing. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. In fact, the thing that made the difference this year were people like Carol. And that's why we gave her our NAS Medallion Award this year for her activism, which was truly, I guess the word is relentless. Carol was a relentless advocate for this measure and got to all those people that you think are so hard to get to and did it in such a great way and just had an army behind her. She rallied so many people to this cause. They were writing postcards, they were making phone calls, and we did it. We got a lot of Republican votes that I never thought we could get because their constituents were talking to them. And so it wasn't just the same old. I really didn't think it would happen this year, but I love having the opportunity to thank Carol publicly for this. But there is a message here that even in these terrible times, and these are terrible times for elections, I never thought I'd live to see the kinds of things that are being proposed today. I started with my activism in the 1970s, been around a long time. And I really thought the voting rights question was settled in 1965, finally. And it is not. And it is going the wrong way in a lot of places. We have to fight back. And we have to get people who feel left out to feel left in, and invite them in. You know, I always talk about, I do a lot with trying to get civic engagement. We have a lot of programs that I run through my office, trying to get people in the communities involved in their government, understand how to access power, even at the local level. And, you know, it's been the most rewarding thing to see those folks finally kind of getting it and getting involved. And if we can't do that, we're sunk. And that's the key to the whole thing, is getting people to feel invited in. And that's how they have to feel this is their government, that it is there for them, if only they take those reins and make it happen. So I'm glad I'm able to tell this positive story about Connecticut this year, and thank Carol and all the people who helped make it happen, because there's no way one person makes it happen.
Thank you so very much. I feel so excited when Carol came to me and told me what you were trying to do in Connecticut. She said, well, you know, it's not a southern state. And it was like, yes, but it is voting rights, and let's see if we can help. So it was wonderful, and we are just so delighted that Carol came to us with that idea.
Me too.
Me too. I couldn't have done this without the support of Center for Common Ground, the tech work, the tech background, the setting up text banks, setting up phone banks, and being able to tap volunteers from all over the country to help when people said, well, Connecticut's a blue state, what's your problem? So the idea that Connecticut actually has the most restrictive voting rights in the country, 1 day, 14 hours, that's it. And people were just shocked. So I could not be more grateful to Denise. I could not be more grateful to Center for Common Ground for all the support. So thank you.
And for me
Thank
too.
you, Carol.
Thank all of you for everything you're doing. It is terribly important. I don't think there's a more important issue today than voting rights.
Because voting is our democracy.
It's your only real voice, and we don't want to lose it.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you for having me, and keep up the great work.
We will. We will.